Did you see this documentary about Chevy Chase?
I haven't watched it. I've seen clips from it.
Okay. I thought it was very good. And
you think I'm like him?
Okay. So prepare yourself, Sean.
Not us. Come on now.
I'm getting a feel of the turf, like Gladiator. I'm sifting the carpet through my fingers.
It is so funny. Like, I'm not even playing. Sean Clements, welcome to Bullseye, and congratulations on the movie. I enjoyed watching it so much.
Thank you, Jesse. Thanks so much for having me.
One of the qualities of this movie is that it is a very sincere, direct movie. It is not a deconstruction of a sports comedy. It is not a deconstruction of a redemption film for a guy. There are very few jokes that wouldn't pass in real life. Was that your intent to make a movie like that?
Well, I like movies like that. Some of the sweetness and the kind of underdog story and the washed up guy getting a second chance stuff, like it works on me. And so I don't think we wanted it to be milquetoast or boring or anything, but I think that there was sort of a feeling as we got into it, especially, and we're really like working on the script and doing reads and finding what was fitting and what was, felt like maybe it was a little too far out to the edges, that, we could make a movie that had like a real mass appeal, and that you could watch and enjoy and find funny like you did, but so like could my mom.
How do you feel about getting to make a medium-sized straight ahead comedy film? Because there is so little of that.
I know.
And even the ones that really work, I mean, among others, one of Josh Greenbaum's other films is one of my favorite movies of the last decade, Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
Yeah.
I think Palm Springs comes to mind, which is so funny. And those are movies that seem like, it seems like miracles that they exist.
Yeah.
In a way that it wouldn't have 25 years ago or 20 years ago. And also, they're like movies where normal people I know maybe have never heard of them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, comedy has just been relegated in this way where it's not seen as good business largely. Critics are tough on comedy. Like it's not, because the humor is so subjective and people are not watching it in a theater with other people. Like we had a premiere for this on Monday where I got to watch it in like a full theater with a lot of people. And it was like so fun. And you can't help but feel like, I wish more people would see it this way, because the laughs of the people around you build and make it, they make the whole energy of it change. And it's not the same to watch a comedy at home. And this is like, horror does great in theaters right now because of that same kind of communal, like the tension being shared among the group. And it seems like comedy would, but for whatever reason, maybe because there's so many different tones, like people don't bet on it. And so like, how do I feel about being allowed to make it? I feel so lucky. I had, been fortunate enough to I had done a lot of work helping Ben Stiller on other small projects. And so there was some trust between the two of us there, and I could get him to read a script. And I also happened to have been going through a personal experience where, as a former tennis player, I had gotten into the pickleball community and found a lot of things that seemed funny and characters that, felt like they could bounce off each other in a surprising way. And also the animosity between the tennis and pickleball world and the infighting that was happening there, where I had an idea for a movie that also is a very trendy, zeitgeisty, topical thing. And so having Ben and having something that was a topic, I think they felt like they could market, if all else fails, at least as like, pickleball people come see this. made it something where I could get it done. But like, I've never made a movie before. I can't believe it. It was so fun.
How did you come to play pickleball?
I grew up playing a lot of tennis. I was really into tennis. I loved it. And then I picked it up again in LA as an adult, but I did have in the film, I had a wrist thing that was really bothering me every time I played tennis, and I kept having to take these long breaks. And it was suggested, like, I had friends who had started to play pickleball, and I kind of thought it was silly, and a lot of my tennis friends looked down on it, but that I should try it because the ball is really light and the paddle is really light, and so you don't have the same vibration, like feedback on your joints. And so I went out and played it, and like, yeah, it's one of the things that is sort of made fun of about it is how easy it is, and like you can pick it up right away. And especially having played tennis, like I was playing with people who played a lot, but I got up to speed really fast. But it was so fun to be out there, and I could play for longer without it kind of bothering my arm. And also for me personally, I had all this baggage when I would play tennis from having been a competitor in that sport for a while, and all I would feel when I would go and play is like, God, I used to be able to do this. Like, I used to be good at this. Like, can I ever get back to being happy with my game? And just the fact that this game was like a little bit different, I just didn't have the like self-loathing, and it was just fun. And I felt like I was getting better every time I went out, and I started to play all the time.
You're not just recreating that in the protagonist, Jake Johnson's character in this film. You're also kind of recreating that in your creation of a regular movie. That you could make a regular movie and give yourself permission to just enjoy making jokes that don't have to impress your comedy freakazoid friends, but can just make them feel good.
Yeah. I think like,
I said just make them feel good, but like in a lot of ways, I want to be clear, like that is a greater achievement because it's easier to just get real nasty for a freakazoid than it is to find something that will mean something to them without doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's harder. It's probably harder to get something made where you go like deep into the recesses of like, what's the most like oddball, sort of joke I can think of. But I do think one thing I've said from the beginning of this, like I talked to Jake Johnson about it while I was writing it, and he had just finished making a film that had like some very like dark turns to it. And he said when he watched it with an audience, he could kind of feel that like the beginning had been fun. And as it went into the things that like he, his like sort of like, sick mind was intrigued by, that he kind of lost people a little bit. He's like, I kind of want to make something that just people enjoy. Like it's just fun all the way through. And you just go, oh, it's like an actual feel good movie. And I've often said like the best review I can give a movie, especially like a mid-sized, sort of light comedy, is it's actually good. Like, I'm sure you've watched a movie, especially like in the old days when you would, rent a movie from the video store and you go, all right, I'll try it. And then, it's like, oh, did you see that movie? And you go, yeah, it's actually good. And I think that, again, because it's a movie about pickleball called The Dink, and it's not as, totally insane or something as Dodgeball. Like, I think there are going to be some people who immediately are skeptical of it, and I would encourage them to try it. And I am not offended at all. In fact, I think it's a tremendous compliment for someone to say, damn, it's actually good. So that sort of was always the goal, for me, was not to like, we're not trying to make like an Academy Award winning film or something. It's just like, let's make something that is like really fun.
Speaking of comedy super freaks, let's talk about your podcast, Hollywood Handbook. I hate to give you this assignment, but could you characterize what Hollywood Handbook is?
Oh, God. I think at one point I said that asking what my podcast is about is a HIPAA violation. Because it's so not even what it is, if that makes sense. Like it started as my friend Hayes Davenport and I, well, we started out, we were doing this show called The Reality Show where we talked about reality shows. Then we stopped doing that, but we had started throughout the process of making that show. The first 10, 15 minutes of the show would be us doing this fake catch up as these like, showbiz big shot characters who someone else has described the show as like two, I don't call myself smart in this, I don't know if that's true, but like two smart guys pretending to be dumb guys who think they're very smart. So we would, we'd talk about how like, we went to the real Southwest or South by Southwest, that like the one you've seen isn't real, but we were at the real one this weekend and all the people we saw and what we did, just like fake made up stories. And we said, man, this is more fun than the show we're doing afterwards with all the research. Can we just make that the whole show? So it was this like,
attempt
satirical
to escape from preparing for a show.
Yeah, that's right. But it was like the satirical kind of showbiz guide. And also at the time, the whole landscape of podcasts, I'm sure you'll recall, was a bunch of people doing sort of carbon copies of Mark Maron's show, which was like two comedians asking each other like, how did you make it? When did you know you were funny? Like just the same conversation. So we were like parodying that. But then it's been 13 years and what podcasts are changed and we've changed and we ran out of versions of that to do. And I say largely the show is just us being jealous of our guest about whatever it is they're promoting and trying to like somehow bring them down to our level. So like Io, who was a good friend of the show, who, did a bunch of episodes before she became super famous. Now when we bring her back, we will like read her variety interviews to her and tell her what she did wrong and like how she should have answered. And it's sort of a humiliation ritual for people. But we find there's kind of, especially by the way, having done press for this movie, I have a little bit of an understanding of the people who do come through our show, because now sometimes a publicist's filter just doesn't catch us and we'll get like a real guest who we don't know at all. We just had Riz Ahmed recently. It was a really fun show.
Very sincere man, but brilliantly talented.
Amazing. But you could feel for the first 15, 20 minutes, he's just like, what is this? Like, what did I walk into? And then people either have a feeling of like, we're not asking the same 5 questions that everyone else has asked. And a few maybe go like, why aren't you asking me the 5 questions I know the answer to already? But like with Riz, he was like, oh, great. Like, what a relief. This is a total break from the monotony of like doing the same interviews over and over again. And we like, he had this show Bait that was kind of about his character auditioning for James Bond. And we like kept making him explain who James Bond was and like misunderstanding and insisting that it was something that he made up. And like, it's very, very dumb, but it was really fun also because he's such a great committed actor and he was really trying to get into it with us. And so, yeah.
For years, my close friend and longtime collaborator, Jordan Morris, had this job doing stupid bits at junkets for a marginal cable network.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I remember was some people would get mad at him.
Yeah.
For being dumb.
Yeah.
He was being dumb. I mean, he had like an hour to think of a bit to do with somebody. And then they had 30 seconds to be prepared that they were doing a bit and not a 5-minute interview with the entertainment reporter for a television station in Oklahoma City. But there were these people. I remember Denzel Washington was one. I mean, Will Ferrell was one, but like, of course, Will Ferrell was one. But Denzel Washington and Tony Hawk was one.
Yeah.
Where they were just so happy to do something dumb as a break from.
Yeah.
Like
William H. Macy, we dropped, like, he had no idea what the show was. He was doing a different show in the like adjoining studio. And it was like, would you come and do these guys' show? And I guess he looked up on his phone, what is this show? And it was like, said like, it's like a satire and they're, playing characters, making fun of showbiz interviews. And we didn't know that he knew what it was. Like we started trying to explain it and he was like, yeah, let's just go. And then he was so in it from the beginning and was like dumber and sillier than we were. This legend actor. It was like really amazing. So yeah, when that happens, it's like magic.
I've been a guest on your program twice. I'm very grateful for having had the opportunity.
We loved having you.
Terrified both times. And there is this deep dis-ease that permeates the show. Like a really intense, deep dis-ease.
And it is a disease. It is a mental disease that we have.
So that's what I want to get at. What is the dis-ease that you are replicating every single week with your closest friend and creative collaborator?
You know, I mean, look, we again, to describe the show too, it's like a little bit like we do compare it to like Colbert Report, Jiminy Glick. Like we are in character, but it is like funny to me to like come purely from a place of like ego and trying to win the interview. Like always putting people on their heels, always moving the goalposts. Like just what new way can we take to like sort of either be victimized by the answer that the person is given and villainize them in some way, or like just completely steer it into a direction that, you know, they don't want to go. It just feels like a fun improv exercise to me. And like Hayes is, you know, obviously brilliant at doing this stuff and coming up with really stupid premises to explore with people too. And so I think it's funny to be that way and like to sort of like poke my friends that way on the show. You know, the first 100+ episodes was mostly always just people we directly knew and had a lot of history with, like Adam Pally and Gabrus. And even to this day, we'll have people who we're tight with and we will finish doing the episode, and the thing 99% of the time people say is like, is that what you wanted? Like, is this show supposed to feel like that? And we're like, yeah, that's actually what it is.
Did you see this documentary about Chevy Chase?
I haven't watched it. I've seen clips from it.
Okay. I thought it was very good. And
you think I'm like him?
Okay. So prepare yourself, Sean. You and Hayes are two of the handsomest white men that I know in comedy.
Thank you. That's
we're
very nice
opening
of
with
you.
that compliment.
Yeah,
you guys are both very handsome white men.
Thank you.
You both look like bad guys in a Snobs versus Slobs movie.
That's right. Yeah.
And when I was watching this Chevy Chase documentary, there's basically two types of stories about Chevy Chase in this movie. And obviously there's huge swaths of Chevy Chase's life that are deeply problematic. But there's two types of stories. One is there are people who have experienced his comedy, his weird, hostile, high status, handsome guy comedy, and been like, why wouldn't I want to experience that? That was amazing. Like that was the great, like Kevin Nealon tells this story about a cater waiter at a party they were at. He and Chevy Chase are talking, and a cater waiter comes up and offers them like a canapé or something. Would you like a canapé? And Chevy Chase takes one, takes a bite out of it, decides, shakes his head no, and puts it back. And he's like, no, thank you. Like, he's like, not good.
Yeah.
And Kevin Nealon is like in awe of this perfect bit, right? I don't know how this cater waiter felt about it.
Yeah.
Or this movie star. Now, I'm not suggesting that you two are doing this in real life, because my experience with both of you in real life is that you're exceedingly caring, decent, gracious guys who are very self-conscious about the way that those jokes play in a way that Chevy Chase apparently is not, or that his desperation drives him to do anyway. But that is not a type of joke that is for everyone. No. Even in a context where it's very clear, everyone knows that they're doing a thing.
Yeah, I would say Chevy Chase had a different experience than I did. You know, like I think that's someone who got very, very famous and so much celebration for behaving exactly like that, and was constantly in situations where everyone was kind of aware of him and who he was and what the bit was. But I have to go to like my kids' school functions and stuff, and talk to people who, like, believe it or not, don't know Hollywood Handbook. So it would not be okay for me to kind of like start with them. So like, I think that whatever, I have the great benefit of not having been that successful and having to actually like live in society. So thank you. I don't think we are like that in real life. However, part of even the persona comes from, I have a tone of voice and a way of being in my very core that presents as slightly maybe off-putting and cold, that is not necessarily intentional.
Contemptuous,
and
perhaps.
I've learned this about myself, and I've tried to mitigate it, and I think I do better, but the default setting is like not everyone's cup of tea. And so, and this is my whole life. People think that I'm being sarcastic when I'm being sincere, and that I'm like making fun of them in some way, even if I'm just saying like, that sounds cool. So there's that. And I have people in my past who I don't even remember. Like, I remember somebody telling me that they were working on a TV show, and they suggested, it was an animated show, and they suggested, oh, we should have Sean Clements do the voice of this character, which I would have loved to do. And the guy who created the show said, like, Sean Clements, he's my enemy. They told me this, and I swear to God, Jesse, I have no memory of ever interacting with this person. And I was like, can you find out why I'm his enemy? And they were like, I came up to him after like one of his improv shows. I used to do this show at UCB every Sunday, and tried to talk to him about it. And he was like so mean to me about it. And I'm like, I mean, I did that show every week for like 10 years. Every time somebody came to, it was almost always the same reaction, where I was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, thanks for coming. But probably also in a distracted like tone, where it just hit this person wrong, and I made an enemy for life. And so I think like in that way I can relate to Chevy Chase, where just by doing what feels normal to me, I sometimes am making enemies.
The reason I bring up this Chevy Chase documentary is not just that he is a handsome white guy that plays oblivious, high status comedy characters, which I love his oblivious, high status comedy characters. The subject of this documentary is basically, why is Chevy Chase so uncomfortable in his life that he is constantly poking everyone around him and doing cocaine?
Mm-hmm.
And those are two behaviors that in some ways feel like, I'm not Chevy Chase and I don't know the man, but they feel like in watching him have a similar root, which is a kind of discomfort in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you have been in recovery for decades now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder if you felt that kind of discomfort in the world. If you developing the ability to do this kind of comedy was in some ways a reaction to feeling uncomfortable.
1,000,000%. That's something I would talk about all the time in recovery, which is, I think for a lot of people who experience addiction, that the alcohol or drug or whatever combination of things you fall in love with, it does not start as a problem. It starts as a solution to a problem. And the problem for me being, never felt comfortable in my own skin, never felt like I knew the correct way to behave, always felt like, everyone else had the answers to a question that I had not heard get asked. Like, I was just like, what am I supposed to be doing with myself? And so, the first time, whatever, I had a handful of drinks, and it was like, I don't have that. I don't have that constant anxiety and self-judgment, and I'm being funny and fun, and I'm doing cocaine, and I'm doing a big crazy bit, and people are, and I'm not wondering whether this is okay, and I'm, making friends this way. And there was a community of people that I became involved with doing that, and we shared similar interests and hobbies for a long time.
Using.
Yes, using drugs. And sometimes too, like, yeah, then watching comedy movies or whatever else and talking about whatever our sort of drug-addled brains were becoming obsessed with at that time. But I definitely felt like, yes, that was a way that I made myself comfortable so I could behave like what I thought was myself. And when I didn't have that like, yeah, making jokes, especially being sarcastic and keeping people at arm's length with a little bit of like a prickly exterior was a safety thing, and made me feel, I felt internally very low status, and it was a way to feel a little more high status, and could get laughs and which felt great, felt like acceptance. And again, Chevy Chase, he got so much reward for it, and he was, he probably didn't have a lot of consequences from that, but that wasn't my reality. I was experiencing consequences. And so I, was able to find recovery and get away from that. But then you are left with this big question of like, this was doing something for me that I felt like I needed. And now I need to somehow replace that and learn how to manufacture that feeling of comfort and find that in any way I can. And in some ways, in the short term, it was probably amping up some of that voice, and then, that has its own problems too. And now I'm hopefully finding like a good middle ground where I can be a person sometimes and use that comedy when it's like appropriate.
How do you feel about the fact that so much of the internet comedy economy is people, mostly in social media clips, on podcasts, making celebrities uncomfortable?
You mean like hot ones and stuff?
In any way. There's that woman that insults her guests. I can't think of what her name is right now. I've seen her clips. It's very good.
It's like the British woman?
Well, there's the British woman that takes people on dates and makes them uncomfortable.
Chicken shop, yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these kinds of things where the point is to do comedy of making the celebrities uncomfortable.
And how do I feel about it? Like, from the perspective of someone who's been doing
making
that,
celebrities uncomfortable for 15 years.
Sure, but we didn't start it. God, I shouldn't even say this, because it's like putting us on too high a pedestal. But we did. After that, there was a comment. I still read the comments sometimes. I shouldn't. But there was a comment under the Riz Ahmed episode where people were talking about how it took them a while to get into it, and they said like, you can forgive Riz for not expecting two American guys to be the spiritual successors to Alan Partridge, which like that is like the top, like that show is so genius and so good and polished and perfect. And we're very shaggy and, inconsistent, but I think like, yeah, totally. And, I watch Jiminy Glick or Colbert and I go, yeah, this has been happening, that people take on an interviewer persona that is not who they are, and they sort of kind of dig in on celebrities. So I don't think we invented it or are getting like knocked off or anything.
Do you think that your career in causing others discomfort, including the people who are listening to and enjoying your show, your many passionate fans of Hollywood Handbook, makes it in some ways sweeter to make a film like The Dink that in some ways is about creating comfort?
That's interesting. Does it make it sweeter? I do fear the idea of people who are a fan of me and some of what I've done, really not liking something that I've made that I am proud of. And the reaction even to, on the Hollywood Handbook forum to like the trailer coming out was like, oh, glad he got paid. It's like, it wasn't, it's like an indie movie we sold to a streamer, but whatever. It was not something that was just like a job I took financially. It was a script that I wrote on my own and then put together with friends and was able to get made. So it was like more of a labor of love. And so I did have a little bit of like an initial like, oh no, like should I be embarrassed that this movie is heartfelt and like could have, a more broad appeal than a lot of stuff that I have done? And I have landed on no. But it's, I waffle a little bit. So like, yeah, I think like there's a little bit of discomfort there, and just what we have, right? Where you're doing something, you put something out there. Like especially in podcasting, what I've always thought was so cool about it is there are no gatekeepers. You started making Sound of Young America. We started making Hollywood Handbook. Like, you just record it and you put it out like the next day. And if people find it and they like it, it's not like developing a TV show or trying to get a movie made where there are so many hurdles and so many different like areas for you to get caught up and for things to get changed or the voice to be, altered to fit someone else's criteria. Like, you just do what you want to do and think is good. And if other people find it, then they're like responding to what you like. And that means that you are more connected to the fan base. And I am, more likely to engage with or read things that people say about an episode or what they might want or didn't want. And so that's been how I kind of experience it. And so then having people react negatively to something that I made, like I was very in touch with it, and it did feel like, oh, these are like my people, like that, like we have, something we've shared. And that's different, I think, than creators of maybe TV shows and stuff, where it's just like, it's a different thing. Podcasting is more intimate. There's that parasocial thing that a little bit goes both ways. So there was some nervousness. But that said, in terms of it being sweeter, I like the idea of people in the same way they might go in not expecting much and say it's actually good, to be like, oh, I didn't think he had that in him. Like, I didn't know that was, I was surprised to see this coming from him, and he did a good job with this other kind of thing, because there's not just one thing I like, and there's not just one kind of thing I want to make. And having the opportunity to do something kind of new was really fun and exciting and cool.
Well, Sean, congratulations on the film. It's so funny, and thank you for taking the time to be on Bullseye. And you know what? Thanks for making Hollywood Handbook the show that is so funny that I am sometimes genuinely bothered by how funny it is.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jesse. I really appreciate it.